Okay, so we pick up from yesterday where we're looking at the given function f of x is 1 minus x to the third, and the equation of the line tangent at 1, 0. So in order to write equation for a line tangent, what two things do I need? Point on line and slope. Now the point on the line is 1, 0, but for slope, we're going to get rid of definition 1. Definition 1 you will not use anymore unless you're referencing the AP Calculus exam. And we're going to move to definition number 2. And definition number 2 says this. It says that the slope is equal to the derivative at point A. The derivative at point A is equal to f prime of A is equal to the slope, which we calculate by taking the limit as h approaches. Do you remember what h approaches? 0 of f of A plus h minus f of A all over h. Now, this is different. What I like about this is that we practiced this last year in college algebra. And you guys did a really good job with it. So although we haven't practiced this much yet, I think you'll catch on. Your book chooses to show you definition 1 and definition 2 back in chapter 2. And I think it's too much for that last section. So I haven't really shown you this yet. So they've assumed that you've practiced this already. So if this is a little steep for you, I apologize, but we're going to do our best, okay? So I have the limit as h goes to 0. And what I do is I take a plus h and I plug it in for what? I plug it in for x, right? I look at this piece, and everywhere where there's an x, I plug in an a plus h. Remember doing that a little bit last year? You got some stuff to cancel off, and we're going to choose our a value. What is a in this problem? 1. So we're going to put a 1 there, and we have a 1 plus an h that's going to go in there. So I'm going to write my function exactly like it looks, but instead of an x, I'm going to write 1 plus h. So I have 1 minus the quantity 1 plus h to the third power. So that's my function, 1 minus x to the third, right? So I wrote 1 minus that thing to the third power. Uh-oh. Sorry. Probably the guy who hit my car. All right. That's all right. It was a parking lot. No. It's not a big deal. He left his information. Yes. I'm sorry, x minus a. No, that was for the old definition. Okay, that was for the old definition. This is, we're simply taking this function, 1 minus x to the third, and we're plugging 1 plus h in for the x. See that? Okay, again. That's my function, right? That's my first step. So now that I have that, I minus, it says minus f of a. What is f of a? It's 0, right? When you plug in 1, you get 0. So I don't have to subtract anything. And I divide by what? What's on the bottom? If you plug in 1, you get 0. Okay? If you plug it, so 1 minus 1 to the third is 0. Yep. Sure. I'll write it. There you go. What? I don't want to keep it there. Oh, you can put it on your paper. How's that? No, I can't. I will not write a minus 0. No. All right. So limit is h goes 0, 1 minus 1 plus h to the third power over h. Now, you remember how to expand 1 plus h to the third power? Pascal's triangle. Thank you. Oh, whoa. Oh, folks. Let's say I want to take x plus 1 to the fifth power. And you'd be like, do you want to multiply that out 5 times? I don't. I want to go like this. I don't remember it. I generate it every time. I put a 1 on the ends, and I add the 2 to create the middle. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 plus 1 is 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. 4 plus 6 is 10. See? That's all there is. If you want, I'm going to show you an example right now, or when we get back, how we work through this. What's that? Jack's triangle? I don't know. Oh, Jack Boondorf. Oh, that was a little bit different. That had absolutely no mathematical thought to it. I agree. Okay, so quick check up here. Folks, if you have x plus 1 to the fifth power and you use Pascal's triangle, I've expanded it that quickly. So it's actually a very useful tool, and we're going to do the same thing with this problem right here. So, to cube it, I'm just going to, if you just make your little chart, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1. So this is the third power one because the second number is a 3. And so this becomes the limit as h goes to 0 of 1 minus 1. So you take 1 and cube it, you get 1, right? And then it would be a minus 3h minus 3h squared minus h cubed. When you cube that out, that's what you'll get. Divided by? Go ahead. You got to distribute the negative all the way through. Those cancel, and thank you. Eli sees that. What can you take out of the top now? The h. And so you get the limit as h goes to 0 of negative 3 minus 3h minus h squared. And what happens when you plug in 0 now? I took an h out. Yeah, everything that has an h will become 0. You're plugging in 0 for h. So therefore, if it has an h, you'll get 0. So we're left with negative 3. So the slope is equal to negative 3. Your point on your line is 1, 0. So we have y minus 0 equals negative 3 times x minus 1. My equation for my line is negative 3x plus 3. Okay, so a couple questions floating around. Number one, what you should notice when you do all these problems is that everything that doesn't have an h will cancel. Second of all, if everything has an h, you can factor an h out of the top and divide it off at the bottom. Third of all, when you go to plug 0 in, you no longer get 0 over 0. Everything that has an h, because h is going to 0, when you plug 0 in, those h's will go away. Negative 3 times 0 is 0, and 0 squared is 0, so you're just left with negative 3. Now, we will practice this one skill quite a bit on Monday. Normally, we would have practiced this by now, but I chose to teach you definition 1 this year because it is on the AP Calc exam. When in previous years, I've just done this definition number 2. So, so in my notes, I should have put more examples so we could get some practice, but I didn't because I'm an idiot this year. So you will go to a scratch sheet of paper, and we're going to try a couple examples, or the back, or wherever you'd like. And the example we're going to go with right now is right here. No, those will not take much space at all. The 4 problems on the back will not take much space at all. So, here's what I would like you to do, and I'll help you get started a little bit. But we would like to look at the function f of x is equal to x squared plus 2x. And we would like to find the slope at the point a is equal to 3. So I'm not asking you to write the equation for the line, though you could do that. We're trying to save a little bit of time here. And so I will help you make the first step of setting it up. What is my a value? 3. So you plug in 3 plus h into your x's, correct? And a is 3, so you'll need f of 3. So I'll write the first part, and I'm going to let you go from there. Limit as h goes to 0 of, what do you get if you plug in 3 plus h? 3 plus h squared plus 2 times 3 plus h. So I've written the entire function, correct? But instead of an x, I have a 3 plus an h. Minus, what do you get if you plug in 3? 15. So now I'm doing the f of a part, and I get 15. All divided by h. Go ahead and work out the algebra. So I have the limit as h goes to 0. And yes, you must continue to write that until you actually plug in 0 for the h. We end up with h squared plus 6h plus 9 plus 6 plus 2h minus 15 all over h. Now, the things that don't have an h are 9, 6, and negative 15. Do those cancel? Isn't that nice? So again, this is a graph that has a removable discontinuity, just like we've always had before. It's just written differently. We're dealing with that h value. And so now I can divide off an h, correct? Because the limit is h goes to 0 of h plus 6 plus 2. If I plug in 0 at this point, you just get the 6 plus the 2, which is the 8. So everything that has an h at the end is just going to go away because it's 0. Yeah? Okay, now I'm not going to set it up for you. You're going to have to do the whole piece, but I will give you one hint, and we'll go from there. You guys, I need to know the answer to this question. I need to know it in all honesty. Do you remember doing pieces like this last year a little bit? Okay, because I never used to teach that, and I inserted it for your class so that I would hopefully get this response where it wouldn't be so foreign. You see what I'm saying? So there should be a connecting to previous learning happening at this time. So right now, look at the answer. Good. Okay, so here's what you have. I'm giving you a little hint here. Our function is 2x squared minus 4x plus 1, and you would like to find the slope at a equals 1. And so I'm just working with quadratics at this point. We're going to work with roots and rational functions as well come Monday and Tuesday. So we'll be able to handle a lot of different situations. In fact, this is the time where the problems end up taking up, entire board spaces. But we're doing kind of the easy ones right now. I want you to realize that your a value is 1, so you're going to plug in the 1 plus the h. But just remember, you do have this plus 1 on the end, right? So that is part of your f plus h, f of a plus h. So when you plug in this 1 plus h, you also must have that plus 1 on the end. Be careful with that. Make sure you try to write it out correctly. Go ahead, work on that, and in a minute, I'll start working behind you so you can check to see if you're doing it correctly. Oh, yeah, I don't know how that happened. It's possessed. There we go. Pros and F-offs and like, holy cow, wow. So I'll work it out here. you plug in 1, you get negative 1. So minus a negative 1 is plus 1. And again, I know that you guys like the algebra, but there's higher chance of mistakes sometimes with some of the algebra we're doing. So you got to be really careful. Okay, so look at my rule. Look at my rule. Hold on, one question at a time. If we plug in 1, you get 2. Minus 4 is negative 2. Plus 1 is negative 1, correct? So you're minus a negative 1, which is my plus 1. Okay. Haley? Okay. So then I set it up as I have here. And now it's simply looking for cancellation and factoring. So you can tell the first step's the most important. I have positive 2, positive 4, and negative 4. Those will cancel. Does everything else have an H? Yeah, it does. And in fact, the 4H and the negative 4H do go away. And so you end up with 2H squared over H, which is 2H. And as you plug in 0, you get 0. So the slope is 0. This is a parabola, and you happen to find the slope of the line tangent at the vertex is what you did. That better? So this skill, you're going to do a little bit of your assignment this weekend. We're going to practice it a lot on Monday and Tuesday of this next week, okay? So let's go back to our notes. We got a few minutes left. I just said to find the slope. The equation for the line tangent would be y equals negative 1. So okay, last example here, and then you can have your assignment. And by the way, you guys, this assignment that you're going to get this weekend, you do not want to put this off till next week. You won't remember how to do it. You need to focus on your notes and the stuff that we've done and be able to do assignment. So last example, given the function h of x is equal to 9 to the x, approximate the slope of the line tangent at 0, 1. So I don't need to write the equation. I just need to approximate the slope. Well, I know that slope is going to be h prime of, what's the point that I'm finding the slope at? Oh, yes, you do. It's very, very faded on the bottom. I'm sorry. The copier kind of was not working that day. Sorry, the copier got really faded. So I'm going to look for the slope. I'm going to find the derivative at what point? What's my x value? 0. So h prime of 0 is equal to the slope, which is equal to the limit as h goes to 0 of, I take the function, I'll just write it out. Okay, so our a value is what? 0. 0 plus h is h. So all I have to do to plug in for x is plug in h. So I have the limit as h goes to 0 of 9 to the h minus, what do I plug into the function for this part? 9 to the 0 is, anything to 0 is 1. You can see it's that number right there, minus 1. 9 to the 0 plus h. So the a value is 0, correct? So I plug in 0 plus h for x. 0 plus h is just h, so I have just h. Now, if you plug in 0 for here, 9 to the 0 is 1, divided by h. Now, everybody look at this and identify, if you plug in 0 right now, what do you get in the numerator and the denominator? 0 over 0, which is an indeterminate value. We do not know what it is. Some people say undefined. 0 over 0, it's not even undefined. We don't know what it is. It will come out to be a value. We just don't know where that hole is filled. We don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out right now. So I don't know how to work with this yet. We haven't talked about exponentials, have we? So it says to approximate. This is the big idea you need to understand right now. If I want to approximate this, I have to let this limit go to 0. What values would I allow h to be if I wanted to approach 0? 1, 0.5, 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, correct? And that might tell me then what this is going to. So in order to approximate this slope, I'm going to have to go to my calculator. I don't know why it refuses to turn on. All right, so y equals, and I type in 9, whoop, parentheses, 9 to the h, or x, minus 1, parentheses, divided by x. So I'm taking the entire numerator and dividing it by the denominator. I am going to go to my table. I have to turn mine because mine always resets. Go back to my table, and I'm now going to type in my values. 1, 0.5, 0.1. I'm going to allow the h value to approach 0. And when I do that, you can see that I think that approximately 2.2 is a very good estimate. What do you think? Yes. So the slope is approximately 2.20. Now, there will come the day where I can tell you that exact slope. Okay? Hold on. It happens to be the natural log of 9. But there's a way in which we get to that, and I'll teach you how we do that later on. But right now, that's how you do that approximation. So your assignment is 3 through 9 in problem 11. Please do not exhibit the non-star quality of procrastination. I know that next weekend is MEA, but trust me, the 3 days next week, they are near and dear and precious to your teachers. We will get in every bit of learning that we can. You will not have a test next week. No. Okay? I will.